Welcome in the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. And this right here, this is G Money Grant Mitchell. We are here breaking down the NBA playoffs, and you can't teach that. Bada boom, man of the people in the room. How you doing? Grant, are you riding today?
I'm riding, Tanner. I am riding. I'm riding through a missed play-in pick yesterday. Oh, just kidding. Nope. It was another perfect day for me. Had it absolutely nailed in the play-in. Tanner, I did the unthinkable. I took a parlay of one team's spread, other team's money line. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I did ultimately end up doing it. I had the Heat at plus 5.5 with the Sixers money line. That came good. So I was feeling pretty good about that one.
That's pretty impressive. That's a small margin too to do that with. That's pretty impressive.
It was, I believe it was plus 500, 508, something like that odds. Again, it was a tight window, but these are the playoffs. And those were two teams that have a history. They don't really like each other. So I figured it was going to be a close game.
So when the Heat were running away with it early, were you feeling good? You thought the Sixers would come back?
Well, at that point, I was fine with the Heat plus 5.5, right? I wasn't so certain because Embiid kind of looked out of it. And also what I've seen from this team in years past in the playoffs, they probably don't come back in that game. But the reason that I was holding on was it's Nick Nurse instead of Doc Rivers. And, I don't want to keep piling on Doc Rivers because it's like low-hanging fruit at this point. Sixers probably lose that game by 20 points if Doc Rivers is still the coach. Nick Nurse didn't make any crazy adjustments from what I saw, but he did tinker with some things. And Philadelphia just made shots. And my guy, Nic Batum, also made some shots. Nic Batum was my hero of the day.
Definitely. We're going to talk about Nic Batum and all the play-in games, the first round, and everything you need to know. Before we do that, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel, like, share, do it all. Click the little button down low so you get a ding every time we go live and post videos and post content, guys. We really appreciate all the support so far on the new channel, so let's keep it going right now. Grant, tell the people why they should subscribe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tanner and I are here multiple times throughout the week. We're talking about the news headlines. We're talking about everything in sports. We're talking about Jontay Porter getting banned for life. We're talking about how he should have had a fall guy like Shohei Ohtani. We're giving out betting picks. Tanner's killing it on the shorts with these funny videos and clips from the podcast. There's a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of great content. So hit that subscribe button.
Well, before we get into the play-in games, we probably should talk about Jontay Porter and how he's going to be like. So Jontay Porter probably can't get a job for like 4 or 5 years. And then in 5 years, he's got to start talking to kids about his mistakes. Like that's the only job he can do now is going around to Boys and Girls Club of America and talking about why you shouldn't gamble on yourself or why you should bet on yourself. Just don't do it on the court.
He took bet on yourself a little too literally. That's not what they meant, Jontay. They meant support yourself, not tell somebody to bet $80,000 on a parlay with your unders. Like, I don't know if Jontay told him to do that. I would like to think not because I would hate to
he did.
I would hate to think that more than one person could be that stupid. But whoever's idea it was to bet an $80,000 parlay to win $1.1 million on multiple Jontay Porter unders, and then he leaves the game in 3 minutes. Hello, did you not think somebody might raise the red flag? Oh, that's a little fishy.
Yeah, like just throw the ball out of bounds if you're trying to go for an assist, miss the basket. Like, don't be that stupid if you're going to do it. But he did tell that better. He was giving inside information. He also bet against his own team multiple times in parlays, which is bad. And then he obviously had the under on his own props, which is crazy to think. But looking at Jontay Porter, like, I just don't know how stupid you can be. You only made $21,000 gambling, and I'm not going to sit here like he didn't make something for giving inside information. I'm sure that $1 million parlay, some of that was going to be returned to him. But he could have rode pine for the next 10 years, had $10-20 million in the bank, been totally fine. And now he's just going to be a guest speaker at Boys and Girls Club talking about his mistakes.
Yeah, and even more than that. I mean, he was making $400,000 this year on a two-way contract. You play well. I mean, the Raptors are dog, you know what. You play just average, you'll probably get a contract because they need anybody that can get up there. And now you're getting a couple million a year. To your point, finish out a 10-year career. Even if you have to go play overseas, there's still good money over there. And we said it last episode. Your brother makes $200 million. Okay, and I believe their dad is a coach or something. I forget exactly what, but I'm pretty sure their dad's big in the basketball world as well too. So he was fine. He did not need to do this, and to throw it away because I'm sure he loves the game of basketball. I'm sure he really does. I'm sure it's his passion in life. You threw it away for $20,000. Why?
I can't.
It's just a stupid thing to do.
It should be his passion, but you can't say it's his passion, right? Like when you're willing, like you knew this was going to end well. So now he's going to be playing for the Shanghai Sharks potentially. But if I'm any team, I'm not letting him I don't want him in my building. Like he's a scumbag. That's what it comes down to. So like he could go to Russia, China, wherever the hell he wants to play. I wouldn't take him.
Well,
He's not drawing a crowd.
Yeah, they probably don't care over there though, to be
They
honest.
probably don't. They probably don't, but also too, like, this isn't like bringing over an American that's got some clout. You're bringing over the dude that had the gambling scandal.
I mean, maybe you can market that. Like, come see why he was kicked out of the NBA, like a circus attraction. The only player with a lifetime ban for sports betting. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to him. It's just a stupid decision through and through.
The best thing yesterday, though, before we move on to the playing games, was someone put out like a press release from the NBA or like a fake press release, or it was either a fake press release from DraftKings or FanDuel or somebody, but it had promo code Jontay for like a $200 bonus bet at the bottom. And there were like people on Twitter like reaching out to DraftKings, reaching out to FanDuel and being like, hey, like I'm using the promo code. It's not working.
Yeah, I saw and now we're going to cut to Shams Charania, sponsored by FanDuel, on this segment powered by DraftKings, with your update that Jontay Porter's been banned for life for sports betting. Like, it's just the place that the NBA and professional sports are in. It's a bit of a slippery slope right now.
Definitely. But shout out to the system, because the system worked.
Yes, 100%. The regulators, U.S. integrity, all those people, great job. This is why you get paid.
Yep. And you know who else did a great job? Nic Batum. Batum has a massive unit last night. This dude averages 5.3 points per game, comes in a do or die. Well, not a do or die, but as close to a do or die game. We're getting to a do or die game as you're going to get. And Nic Batum comes out and drops 20. Hell of a performance by him. He willed the 76ers to victory because it did not look good for them throughout this game, Grant.
No, that Miami Heat zone early on was really bothering them. They just could not figure it out, and I don't blame them. It's not a conventional 2-3, 3-2, 2-1-2. It's just kind of free flowing, and it was really getting to them. And Philadelphia, this is a team that was playing really well. I think they had won 8 straight games heading into this one, and they just looked totally out of it. Had 39 points at halftime, and then they score 66 in the second half. And a lot of that was because of Batum. Makes 6 threes. Finishes with 20 points, 5 rebounds. It was really good. And Embiid was good, I guess, when he needed to be, but he wasn't the MVP level Embiid. 23, 15, and 5 is nice. But again, it was just a couple of shots in the fourth quarter from him. Batum was the guy to do most of the heavy lifting and hit those big shots throughout the second half.
You know what Nic Batum did last night?
What's that?
He ruined the total for bettors. So the Heat had gone over in 9 of their past 10 games. The total was set at 208.5 last night. 209 points were scored. So Nic Batum, while he did cash out 76ers money line bettors, live bettors, they screwed us on the spread. Like 76ers spread bettors were totally screwed last night. But Nic Batum did destroy the total. So shout out to Nic Batum for, I guess, doing that as well.
So, Tanner, I do have to ask you this because you're the resident Celtics fan, and I mean that as the only Celtics fan on the show. So your path, you might get the Miami Heat, you might get the Chicago Bulls. Looking like Jimmy Butler is going to be done for at least a little bit. He's got some MCL damage apparently. So, I mean, even the Bulls at full strength of the Heat down Jimmy Butler, let's say they're somewhat even. In the first round, as the Celtics, you're going to get those guys. And then after that, you're going to get probably, definitely you're going to get the winner of the Cavs Magic series. I would say that's probably the Cavs. And then after that, like who are the other top contenders? The Bucks, who aren't playing well, and Giannis is injured. Pacers, and Halliburton's not been the same since he came back. The Sixers, but again, Embiid still doesn't look 100%. Like, this is I don't want to call it a free hit, but this is a very clear path to the finals for Boston.
It's a clear path no matter who they get. Like, nobody they would have gotten in the Eastern Conference, you could say, hey, they're going to compete with the Celtics. It's just not going to happen this year. The Celtics should easily cruise through the Eastern Conference playoffs. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the talent level for Boston is so much better than everyone else. And if they don't get at least to the NBA Finals, we got a problem. If they don't win the NBA Finals, we have a problem. But I think Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, this whole team. Now you added in Porzingis, you added in Drew Holiday. You have a lot of good role players. Like, this is the year that they need to get it done. Now Jason Tatum has that experience in the playoffs. He's already accomplished a ton at the age of 26. So if you look at what he's done, the experience, I know it hasn't necessarily resulted in championships, but this is the year that you got to put it all together, because now you have a ton of talent.
They're minus 190 to win the East, plus 165 to win the finals. I do think that they had the best regular season of any team. I don't think they're that clearly the best team in the league, but referencing the betting odds, like, I do think a large part of them being what I say, plus 165 to win the finals. I do think a large part of that is because of how easy it should be for them to come out of the East. Even with Giannis and Embiid at full health, it still should have been them, and now it's going to be even easier.
And even if they get to the NBA Finals, which they should, obviously, a minus 190 price tag is pretty hefty. When you look at the NBA Finals, they're going to be playing against Denver. They might be playing against Oklahoma City. Like, there's a few teams, as we've talked about, Dallas. I still think the Celtics will be a favorite. It won't be a massive favorite. You're not going to see the Celtics minus 160 or minus 170 to win that NBA Finals. You're going to see them probably around minus 120, minus 130, I bet, to start. It might shoot up to minus 150 as bettors get in on it, but I think the series price will be relatively close, because we know the Celtics have had trouble finishing in the big games.
Yep, I got a Boston-Dallas NBA Finals. I can't remember if I said that on the last episode, but that's who I got.
I feel better against Dallas than I do against Denver, for sure.
Well, I mean, yeah, because we've seen Denver do it before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, if you got Dallas versus Boston, you got two teams that haven't done it. So it's like, let's see who's going to do it.
But I will say, I would be terrified there, because Tatum, as good as Tatum has been without accomplishing the biggest goal of winning a championship, he's gotten there, he's gotten to conference finals. He's not the big shot taker that Kyrie and Luka are. Those are two guys. I mean, Dallas was the best clutch team in the league. So in a series, which theoretically should be close, the final should be close, I would be really scared of those two.
You know what you're forgetting, though?
What?
Jason Tatum as a massive unit.
Oh, gosh.
That's what you're forgetting.
That's from like 2 years ago, isn't it?
That was our first show.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
I didn't say it because, I got to go through and bleep it out, but you know what I'm implying. It's
yes,
big.
I do. Okay.
And he's going to win.
I mean, let's keep it in the Eastern Conference. We got a play-in game on Friday. We got the Chicago Bulls going up against the Miami Heat. This team will play Boston. Do you have a lean on this game at all? Obviously, we don't know if Jimmy's playing or not. I would guess not. He was limping pretty heavily. But do you have a pick in this one?
And the Bulls, while they did not find a way to come through, I think they showed some okay things throughout that game. Defensively, they were not good. But they got out to, they dominated scoring wise. And that was the biggest thing, right? Like, they still gave up 116. They still had Atlanta scored 45 points in the second quarter. Like, you can't get away with that moving forward. You need to be a little better defensively and a little more steady, but I would lean towards them in this spot. I think they got a lot of momentum coming into this game, and especially if Jimmy Butler doesn't play. And right now, when you're looking at the spread in this game, at least you're getting the Bulls for plus 2.5. It was Miami 6.5 at the opening, knowing Jimmy Butler's down. It has dropped. But I would take those points. I take the 2.5. I think it's going to be a tight game, but I do like the Bulls to come through.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to go with Miami. Even if Jimmy doesn't play, I think Miami does have just enough. I would probably play the under on 209. That's probably my strongest pick, again, especially without Jimmy. Jimmy has not been great for this team. In that late season ramp-up period that he normally has, didn't really happen this year. He had a nice week or two, but he entered the playoffs with 3 straight games of less than 15 points. And then, he was like 5 of 18 from the field or something in that play-in game. So as weird as it's going to sound, I don't think the Heat will miss him too much. And I just trust Eric Spoelstra and the defensive strategies he can put out there. Miami had the second best or number one defensive rating since the All-Star break. So, yeah, I'll take Miami, but I'm taking the under more than anything.
I mean, I don't have as much interest in this game as I do in the Kings Pelicans game. So this is a really interesting one to me because the Pelicans have won 5 straight against the Kings. They swept the season series. I do think the Kings are going to win this game though, because one, you don't have Zion Williamson, so that's massive. Brandon Ingram did not look good. He still looks beat up. CJ McCollum did not look good. Overall, the Pelicans did not look good outside of Zion, and he's not going to be on the floor. So looking at the Kings, I think with De'Aaron Fox, I like them to get the job done here. And they're going to win one game against the Pelicans. It's sad to say it's going to be the one that matters this year, but I would lean towards them. Money line -124 right now.
Yeah, this one's interesting because I've thought for sure that I was going to be taking the Pelicans here, but after I was really looking into the numbers last night and considering, what you said, McCollum didn't play well, Ingram didn't play well, Zion is injured. I do want to lean Sacramento. I guess the pushback on that is obviously, I mean, Sacramento's down a couple of guys too. Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk, they're not going to play. You're counting on Keon Ellis and Davion Mitchell to continue to give this offensive and especially defensive production. And it's not like you've got scrubs coming in for New Orleans. I mean, Trey Murphy's going to get some heavy minutes now. He, played really well when Ingram was out. And of course, Ingram's back now, but with no Zion, you are going to see Murphy on the floor more. They're going to have more space to their lineup. I would probably do the opposite of what I said in the other game. I would probably bet the over in this game, but I am like you. I do think Sacramento pulls it out. Wouldn't surprise me to see New Orleans do it, but I would go Sacramento and I'd go with the over.
So out of the 5 games that the Pelicans won, Zion did not play in one of those games. But looking at it overall, if you're the Pelicans, how much of an advantage do you think it is knowing, hey, we beat these guys every single time, whether we have our dogs or not? And from the flip side, what do you think of the Kings saying like, hey, we haven't beat them yet? Are we scared coming into this matchup?
Well, the Pelican side of things, I don't think it really matters too much because you can't go into this game confident and saying, yeah, we own this team. You just lost to the Lakers in a play-in game. Okay, you've got another chance, but this is do or die. And the Pelicans have the worst home record of any top 8 seed in either conference. They're barely over 500 at home. So it's tough for them. Sacramento is a decent road team. And I think the fact that it's different when you say we've beat this team every time. If you say we've lost to this team every time, well, Sacramento was just able to beat the Warriors, who have kind of beat their boogeyman. I think they're going to come in with that same sort of approach and, give the Pelicans really all they have in this one.
Yeah, I agree. So leaning towards Sacramento there, you're leaning on the total going over. Now we're through the play-in. We're into the first round here. We got the Magic and the Cavaliers. Cavaliers laying 4.5 points currently, total set at 206.5. I think the Magic are going to be pesky in this series. I think they're going to struggle on the road, as we've seen this year, 18-23, but they are a very good spread team and they find ways to cover. So looking at them when they do get back on their home floor, I'm definitely going to be leaning towards the Magic. This one, I'm kind of undecided right now, but probably would lean towards laying the points with the Cavs because they are 26-15 at home. And I think talent wise and experience wise, they obviously have more.
Orlando was the best team in the league against the spread. To your point, I think it was something like 51-31. They were just great printing money all season long. I do have a pick more for this series. I like the Cavs to win the series. I don't know about laying the 4.5 points in game 1, but that is probably ultimately where I would go as well. I think the big thing here for me is both these teams play tremendous defense. They approach it a little bit differently. Cleveland's a little more straight up one-on-one. Strength of their defense is on the interior, whereas Orlando's hyper aggressive on the perimeter. And then they bring lots of weak side and low man rotations over to help collapse the lane in the post or in the painted area. What I worry about for Orlando is they have good spacing, but they don't have good shooting. Normally those go hand in hand, but they don't have to, and they don't with this team. The problem with that is you try to run pretty much everything in your offense through the post, whether it's Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner. Well, those guys have been going up against the Jarrett Allens and the Evan Mobleys, who are very tough defensive matchups for these guys. So you're going right into the strength of their defense. Meanwhile, on the other side, you've got a scorer in Donovan Mitchell, who in the playoffs is kind of he's one of the best one-on-one scorers there is out there. And in this series, which is going to be low-scoring, defensive-minded, it's all going to come down to who can hit those big shots in the big moments. And with Cleveland, again, Donovan Mitchell is clearly the best one-on-one scorer. And then if Orlando is going to play their usual defense with all these rotations from the weak side, you're leaving the shooters open in the corner, whether it's Garland or Max Strus or George Niang. These guys need to earn their money here. They need to knock down those shots. But ultimately, I do like the Cavs to win the series. And I would probably go with them in game 1 as well.
Yeah, when the Cavaliers were scoring in the matchups this season between the two teams, the Magic just couldn't keep up. But I'm excited for Orlando in the future. Like, I love Paulo Banchero. I think he's not disrespected, but I think he's just like a side note, considering he was an all-star, considering he was that good this season. A lot of people don't talk about him.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, I think part of it is just Orlando's been bad for so long that the spotlight hasn't caught up to him yet. But I agree with you. Orlando's a very fun team. I've really enjoyed watching them this season.
It's a Disney city. People are going there to go to Disney. They're not going there to watch Paulo Banchero. Sad to say, but it's probably true. Anyways, we got another game to talk about. We got a lot of games to talk about right now. Phoenix Suns versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. I took the Suns already for game 1 at +2 here. The Timberwolves have number 1 defensive rating in the league. We know that. They're physical. They're big. I think the wings for the Suns have a massive advantage in this game. I think they're going to be able to hit shots from the perimeter, and that's why I'm leaning on them. I think the Timberwolves are going to dominate down low. But overall, Karl-Anthony Towns not super healthy right now. Did miss 18 games to end the season. I think that's going to play into the series a little bit. I am looking at the Suns to not only win game 1, but I think they do take this series overall and pull off the upset.
I believe they're favored to win the series, no?
I don't think they are. Let me see.
Could have sworn they were when I looked yesterday. They are. They're -140 to win the series.
Oh, wow. Didn't see that. All right. Well, I'm taking the Suns then.
So I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be stubborn here. I think there's a lot of reason to pick the Suns in game 1. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take the Timberwolves. The Suns won the season series 3-0. They beat the Timberwolves, I believe, in the 81st game of the season. Anthony Edwards in 3 games against Minnesota averaged just over 14 points. So again, like, I understand why you would go with Phoenix here. I trust the concept that Minnesota has put out this season. I trust their players. I trust their ability to execute in these types of slower paced, low scoring games. I think that they can play much better than what they have against Phoenix. I also don't think Phoenix has done anything really incredible against Minnesota. The ways that they've been able to limit Anthony Edwards aren't necessarily groundbreaking. They've just messed with his timing a little bit, sent doubles here. We're going to trap him here, force him to make decisions, force him into being a passer. And to Ant-Man's credit, he's been a lot more comfortable as a facilitator as the season has progressed. I like that Jaden McDaniels can get a hand on, whether it's Devin Booker, whether it's Kevin Durant. That's somebody you probably feel just about as good as anybody in the NBA going against those guys. So I do see this being a very close game, but I'll take Minnesota just out of stubbornness.
Give me KD. Give me Devin Booker. Give me the big dogs. Won 7 of their final 10 games of the season. I think they find a way to do it here. If this becomes like a low-scoring defensive battle, I'll obviously lean towards Minnesota. But if shots are falling for the Suns, which I think they have the capability to, I think they're going to win this series.
Yep, fair enough.
All right. Keep it rolling here. We are going to the 76ers and the Knicks. Talk about disrespect. Knicks are getting disrespected. We talked a lot about Jalen Brunson on Monday here. I don't know if Jalen Brunson's going to have enough to win this series overall. It really depends on the health of Joel Embiid. If he's healthy and he looks good, I think the Sixers are going to win it. If he doesn't, it's pretty much a coin flip. I don't have a play in game 1. I want to know what Joel Embiid's health is, and I also think it's going to be a toss-up.
I love the Knicks. It's a shame because I really enjoyed watching the Magic. I really enjoyed watching the Knicks. I already picked against the Magic. I'm picking against the Knicks here. I like the Sixers. I know they didn't look amazing against the Heat, but they showed a lot of resiliency. The fact they were able to score 66 points in the second half against that tremendous defense. I think it's going to do a whole lot for their confidence. They've got a few days to rest here. And then, the Knicks defense is good, but it's not – they don't have the same personnel. They don't have the same schemes that Miami did. I think Embiid is going to be able to kind of have his way with Hartenstein in this one, and I will take the Sixers to win game 1 as the underdogs, 3-point underdogs.
Okay. All right. So you're going to take 3? You're going to take money line?
No, come on now. I'm laying it on the table. Give me the plus money.
+3 is always good. Like when you're within 3, it's good to take the point.
Yeah, it is absolutely good. It's definitely the smarter advice.
Now, a team I'll be taking the points with is the Los Angeles Lakers. You're a Los Angeles Lakers, Grant. I don't know how you're a bandwagon Lakers Cowboys fan, I guess now. But
I'm literally a Washington Commanders fan.
No, you're bandwagon Lakers, Cowboys. Hell, you probably like the Yankees too.
I don't like the Yankees.
Lakers plus 7.5 is my play in this series. I think Nikola Jokic is going to be great. I think the size that the Lakers have is negated by the Denver Nuggets. But the one thing about the Lakers is I think guys like Roy Hachimura and D'Angelo Russell, like those are the two that this series is going to come down to. If they can make their shots, if they can keep it close, I think LeBron and AD are good enough to go out and win it. But if you're not having the co-stars and the role players do enough early in this game, in the series, Denver's going to blow you out. They're going to find a way to win it. They've won 8 straight against the Lakers dating back to last season. So are you with your team, Grant? Are you going to go against them here?
Did I explain to you my theory about the Lakers in this series?
No, you didn't.
Okay, so I want to preface this by saying I am not saying the Lakers will win this series. What I'm saying is if we're under the assumption that whichever team comes out of the Western Conference has to beat the Nuggets at some point, whether it's the first round, second round, conference finals, we should agree on that, right?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I think you did. It's a good spot for the Lakers to play the Nuggets if you're going to play them. That's what you said.
Okay, yes, exactly. Yes, this is a good spot. This is a great spot. I don't think they have to win game 1. I think they have to win one of the first 2. You got to go back to LA with the series tied at 1-1. Otherwise, it will have been 10 straight losses. You've got to win 2 straight at home just to tie it up. And at that point, your morale's pretty low. I love what you said. D'Angelo Russell is absolutely the key here. He's been averaging more than 20 points since the All-Star break, hit probably the biggest shot of his life in that Pelicans game, less than a minute left, put him up 4, basically sealed the game off there. And the Lakers team at plus 7.5, I think that's where you do have to go with the points. I mean, every game in that series last year against Denver, the Lakers were either ahead or they were like tied going into the fourth quarter. They didn't have enough juice down the stretch. LeBron was tired and injured. He had a torn plantar or whatever it was. Anthony Davis wasn't playing well. D'Angelo Russell averaged, I think, 6 points in that series. So with any sort of production from him and the fact that the Lakers are much more rested and the fact that they're going to be pissed off, they lost the season series. They got swept in that. They lost the conference finals last year, got swept in that. I think you see a really good effort from them. Again, Denver, in my opinion, Denver's probably the worst team to play against in clutch situations. So if it's tied in the last 2 minutes, wouldn't shock me at all if Denver does win, but 7.5 is pretty steep there. I definitely think you take the points.
Yeah, that's a steep line. I think that's a disrespectful line. But again, for the Lakers, they need D'Angelo Russell. They need Roy Hachimura. They need Austin Reeves. Like, you can't just say LeBron's got to go out and win this game because it's not going to happen.
It's not going to, but I mean, at the same time, LeBron didn't look that great in the play-in. He almost, I don't want to say he looked out of gas because I've seen him in the weeks before, and he's definitely wasn't out of gas. He looked uninterested more than anything. But LeBron over the last month or so has been unreal. You throw it back to that conference finals against the Denver. He was really good. And I think in the last game, he had 40, 10, and 9. So we know he can do it. It's just, got to wait and see it happen.
If the Lakers get through this series, they could go all the way to the NBA Finals. But they got
and if they play the Celtics, again, like the Celtics are better than the Lakers, no doubt about it. But when you get to the final 5 minutes, if it's a tie game, I don't love the way the Celtics offense executes down the stretch. So if you're the Lakers, you view this as you win this and you can win the whole thing.
Yeah, that would be cool. Lakers, Celtics. You'd like that as a bandwagon Lakers fan. Little Cowboys, Giants, not Cowboys, Giants, Cowboys,
Giants.
Yankees. Cowboys, Yankees.
We're just throwing everything out.
Cowboys, Yankees.
Listen, I'm 10 minutes away from DC. I could claim the Orioles if I wanted to. I don't. I claim the Nationals. I'm not a bandwagon.
Well, the Orioles are good now, but like if you claim the Orioles now, you just can't do it because they were bad so long. You can't be like, I'm an Orioles fan. I am an Orioles fan though now. I've totally.
No, you're not. You're a fan of a team in the division.
No, I'm an Orioles fan.
You're a Red Sox fan. And I saw your tweet yesterday. I saw what you said. What was it about the Red Sox and the A's?
They're just the big market A's. They actually won yesterday. So the Red Sox won yesterday, but Tanner Houck threw a gem. Like he had the first
Maddox
complete game shutout for the Red Sox. First complete game since 2022 when not playoff Pivetta. What's his name? Why can't I think of it? He's dead to me. Eovaldi. When Eovaldi threw in. No, Chris Sale hasn't thrown a freaking complete game since like 2015. He blows. But it was a really good pitching performance. It was like, the Red Sox play great. Like, Red Sox did not play great. We only scored 2 runs. It's not like we were that good. We just got lucky. And one of the runs was balked in. Like the guy balked and it came in. So it's like we hit 1 home run and we balked. We scored 2 runs and we made our plays in the field because a guy was throwing a gem. So I'm an
I
Orioles.
didn't realize this was going to get you this fired up.
I'm an Orioles fan. I'm a big Jackson Holiday guy.
You're not an Orioles. You can't call me a bandwagon and then give up on your team for a team in the division that's playing better.
Yeah, but the Orioles are America's team. That's the difference.
They're not even their own team. They didn't want to pay anybody.
But they develop. They have a lot of stars there. They might not keep them, but they got stars. Jackson Holiday. By the way, you know Jackson Holiday?
Yeah, of course.
His
first 11 at bats, he was like 0 for 11, 7 strikeouts, something like that.
And here's my theory behind it. He's married. He's married. He's 20. He can't even drink alcohol. He's already married yet.
So that's crazy. So why was he playing good in the minor leagues but not in the major league?
Because you got a lot of guys in the majors who aren't married. They're just playing loose. They're just 25-year-old dudes playing loose. And this dude's got to worry about a wife and a dog. He's got to worry about a lot of stuff at 20 years old. That's a lot. Like you got to worry about your wife and a dog and trying to hit 95-mile-an-hour pitching. That's hard. So I saw that. I realized that's why Jackson Holiday's struggling. So,
I have actually not in those terms, but I have thought about this before. Like, what if you're an NFL player? I don't know what their schedule is. Let's say you show up to the facility at like 7, 8 a.m., right? You get a lift in, whatever. You eat, you got your team meetings, you got practice, you get your treatment. When do you go to the grocery store? Like stuff like that.
You get people. Well, you eat the facility. If your probably wife is going, you have somebody that cooks for you. It depends how good you are. Like we talk about like professional athletes. There's a lot of guys that are making league minimum, which is still really good. Don't get me wrong, but like if you're making $700,000 a year and you're like a bench player in the NFL, you're probably not hiring a personal chef. You still got to go to the grocery store. You can't gamble at the facility to make more money like some of these guys were trying to do.
I mean, you can. You just might get caught. Get caught.
So many idiots out there gambling. Like it's not like FanDuel and DraftKings don't track your location where you're placing bets. Like, come on. Anyways, Jackson Holiday. Shout out to you for getting married, but it's hard. That's a lot, and I'm being serious. That's a lot. He's got a dog. He's got to worry about his dog.
2 more games, Tanner. Take us in.
Mavericks, Clippers. Mavericks are a 1.5 point favorite here. My biggest fear with the Mavericks is they don't really play a lot of defense. You know what I'm saying? Like the effort is not always there on defense. The effort is all. Yeah, that's true.
It's not true. They were the number 1 defensive team in basketball since the All-Star break.
No, the effort's not always there on defense. It's very inconsistent. It's very up and down.
They allowed the fewest points per 100 possession of any team in the league. What do you want from them?
I want more effort. I want it consistently. I don't want it since the All-Star break and since turn on. I want it the full year.
Well, I mean, they had a personnel change. They got PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. Derek Lively was out injured. He'll be back soon.
I want it all the time, nonstop, every single minute of every game. And I think that's the biggest question here. Like, I think Luka and Kyrie are going to make big shots, but what's the defense going to do when you get punched in the mouth, Grant? What's the defense going to do? Because they're now, fine. I look at the Mavericks. They're 18th in defensive rating. I don't care if since the All-Star break. I care what you've done for me this season. You're 18th.
Look, the Mavericks are fine. The defense is fine. Kawhi is a flight risk. He might play. He might not play. If he does play, at this point, like we've seen it for so long. Whenever we talk about series and playoffs, we don't expect injuries to happen. You can expect an injury with Kawhi Leonard or Paul George or Harden, Westbrook, whoever it is. Something's going to go wrong with this Clippers team. I don't know if it's going to happen in this series, but it will happen at some point in the playoffs. Where I'm going with this is the Mavericks are elite offensively. They have the best defense in basketball over the last 2 months. They can rebound. They're a top 10 rebounding team during that time, whereas they struggled before. They're probably the best clutch team in basketball as well. It's like them, the Nuggets. I think the Lakers are somewhere up there too. But they've been awesome in pretty much every facet of the game. They've beaten the good teams. They've beaten the bad teams. Luka destroys the Clippers every time he sees them in the playoffs. He hasn't beaten them, but he's been playing with a bunch of JUCO players. Now he's got a real squad around him, and this is a time when the Clippers are slumping. They're like bottom 6, bottom 7 in offense over the last couple of weeks, over the last month, whatever it is. I go with the Mavericks. I mean, the Mavericks win this game. They win this series. I think they get this thing done in 5. I think it's a quick one.
I'm not saying the Mavericks don't win. I'm just saying I need effort. That's what defense is. It's effort.
It is, and that's why Dallas has the best defense in basketball.
No, 18th, actually, Grant. 18th defensive rating. Indiana Pacers versus the Milwaukee Bucks here. Looking at the Pacers versus the Bucks, this is a bad matchup. Do we know if Giannis is playing here? I don't.
They haven't announced it, but he's not going to play in game 1.
Well, because the series price was like plus 230, I think, for the Pacers at one point, and now I think it's plus 140 in that range. I could be wrong, but it was definitely as high as plus 230 for a point, and then it was like Giannis is hurt, and then it started to drop down.
It's actually minus 102 for the Pacers in the series.
Okay, so that was as high as plus 230 at one point. So that shows me that Giannis is not going to play game 1. He might not play game 2, game 3.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's out for multiple games in the series. We've seen him miss multiple games before in the playoffs. Happened last year with his back problem. Does suck for Giannis. He's not an injury prone player. In fact, the year they won the finals, like he had a knee injury that probably should have kept him out for months, and he missed like 1 game or 2 games, whatever it was, and he came back and closed it out with a 50-14. Anyway, I messed up. I screwed up royally. I was going to take the series price of the Pacers at that plus 230, whatever it was. I thought they were going to win this series beforehand. And now that Giannis is out, the line has moved considerably, and I'm just not going to bet it for basically, 1-1. But I do think that this is a spot where you do look at the Pacers. I mean, they're favored by a point. It's basically a pick 'em, but technically they're the Vegas favorite. One thing that really stands out to me, and I didn't find the stat myself, I heard it on a podcast, but so when Bobby Portis is the defender in a pick and roll against the Indiana Pacers, the Pacers score an average of 1.9 points per possession. It's like so they basically make a shot every time Bobby Portis is defending the pick and roll. Well, without Giannis, guess who's going to get those minutes? It's Bobby Portis. The Bucks have serious problems defending speed and in space. That's what the Pacers bring. That's why the Pacers won the season series 4-1. Even though Halliburton is taking steps back, you don't have Giannis who you can bake in for. I think this is crazy too. Giannis averaged, I believe, 42 and 13 against the Pacers this season, and they still lost the season series 4-1. So you're going to be down 42 points, 13 rebounds, and you're going to have Bobby Portis with his defensive limitations. You're going to have Damian Lillard, who hasn't shot the ball well all year. This one has Pacers written all over it to me.
Yeah, you just can't bet it right now for a series break. Like, do not bet the Pacers to win this series, right? Because you lost out on value. You had to get in way earlier than you do now.
Yeah, I agree. I am excited to see this one. I do think this could be a 7-game series because teams don't like each other, but I just think that the Pacers, especially without Giannis, I think they're the team you look at.
Yeah, for sure. Well, anyways, Grant, that wraps it up here. That was a hefty show. A lot of betting picks in there. A lot of fun. A lot of talk about the Lakers and the Orioles and all that good stuff too. Gambling, players betting on themselves. I saw a good tweet. I forget who sent it. It was somebody famous or some media personality, but it's like they sent a picture of Jontay Porter and they're like, if I send this to you, just know I'm betting on myself.
I'm betting on myself. Yeah, I saw that. You know what I really love? I love that people are now manufacturing text messages. Like I saw one with it was a screenshot of a text conversation, and it was from Nicola and had a picture of Jokic in the ID, and it was a text that said, "Hey man, make sure you bet on me against the Lakers. I will put up a triple-double, and I will let Anthony Davis score the first basket. Make sure you put in a parlay for that." And they'll respond like, "Okay, Nicola, thank you for telling me." And they're like, and they'd say at FanDuel, at BetMGM, at Caesars.
Yeah, it's wild. The internet will always be undefeated. Like even when OJ died, there are some pretty killer memes on there.
Pretty killer, huh? Pretty killer.
Well, I didn't mean it like that, but if you're gonna say it like, I'm just saying the internet will always go undefeated. The internet will never lose.
Yeah, I mean the internet is toxic as hell, but I do love the internet.
Real quick before we go. Real quick before we go, I didn't mean to change the subject. What do you think of the reporter who was hitting on Caitlin Clark yesterday?
Oh, this is how we're closing out the show. I don't know if Caitlyn has to say something. Here's the thing. Caitlyn won't say something because she's new. She's supposed to be the face of the league. In a lot of ways, she already is. No disrespect to Brianna Stewart, Ajay Wilson, but, it is what it is at this point. Someone's got to pull the guy's credentials. I thought it's creepy. Do you know what he was referencing when he was talking to her? Because you couldn't actually see him.
The thing she does to her parents.
Yeah, it's like it's this or like this or something. It's a heart, whatever it is.
And he just didn't say, he just put it up unsolicited.
Yeah, and he said, if you do that to me, then we'll get along just fine.
Keep doing it
something
to me.
Like that.
He's like, I'm glad you're here. I'm really glad. I don't know if he's a creep or not. I'm not gonna sit here and say he's a creep. I think it might have just seemed better in his head, but it's probably not professional. It's definitely not professional.
It's definitely not professional, and it is one of those things like you said, he might not be a creep, but that was creepy. It was definitely the wrong thing to say to a 20-something-year-old girl whose first day on the job. It's not what you do. So, I mean, if I'm her dad watching that, I'm really uncomfortable. If I'm someone in the Indiana Fever organization, I'm probably having to talk with that guy, if not pulling his credentials too. And I'm sure he's seeing everything online, so hopefully he learns from this. But also, shout out to Caitlin Clark. Looks like she's got an 8-figure shoe deal, going to get her own signature shoe from Nike. That's going to be awesome. I'm excited to see what it looks like. So shout out to Caitlin Clark.
Greg Doyle. Greg Doyle. That's the reporter. Nice picture of a dog in his Twitter profile. Greg Doyle. Anyways, he wrote a column on this. He wrote a couple
on him asking her that question.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. On Wednesday, I was part of the problem. So shout out Greg Doyle. Anyways, that was Ride the Line, Grant. You can take us out of here today. It was a fun one.
Guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Ride the Line, this mostly NBA-themed episode of Ride the Line. Make sure that you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, drop some comments, let us know what you are going to be betting on this weekend, and we will catch you all in the next episode of Ride the Line.